The way you look, I think you know what I'm saying, old timer. I think you do. Jesus Christ, why don't you have some fun? Fun. All right, shaka-laka-doo, shaka-laka-dooby-dooby-doo, shaka-laka-doo. You got a little bit more there. Coming in there, baby.
Hard Eight is a film that came out in 1996 that's written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. So Hard Eight was a film that I put in the subscriber poll this month, and as most subscriber and patron poll winners, I was really excited that this film won, but I was particularly excited that this film won because I knew that after I watched this film, I would have officially watched every single film in Paul Thomas Anderson's filmography, and that means that I can now officially put out a fair and proper ranking for not only one of my favorite contemporary filmmakers, but one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. For starters, Hard Eight has a really interesting production history. It's actually based off of a short film that he made prior called Cigarettes and Coffee that actually went into Sundance Film Festival. It got accepted into Sundance Film Festival, and he was able to attend the Sundance workshops. Paul Thomas Anderson himself said that during that time, after Pulp Fiction just being a gigantic success, he said it was a bit easier for independent filmmakers to get investors. So a production company that went by the name of Reicher Entertainment decided to invest in Paul Thomas Anderson's script, and that's how we got the movie. But apparently there was this huge battle between the final cut of the film that Paul Thomas Anderson intended to be like 2.5 hours long, but also a huge beef on what the title of the film should be. Paul Thomas Anderson wanted to name the film Sydney, which is the name of the main character in the film, played by Philip Baker Hall. And Reicher Entertainment basically said that they would prefer the film to be named Hard Eight, more than likely because they fear that people would confuse it for the city in Australia. But eventually, Paul Thomas Anderson conceded and let them name the film whatever they wanted, because they eventually allowed him to have whatever cut of the film that he wanted as well. So the version that everybody sees of Hard Eight is the version that Paul Thomas Anderson wanted. And I actually prefer the title Hard Eight over Sydney, so I think that was actually a good call overall. Not that Sydney's a bad name or anything, but it's a little bit on the nose. But Hard Eight is just, not only is it more subtle, but it's just a cooler name in my opinion. But anyways, it's time to actually talk about my personal opinion of the film. I just thought y'all might find that interesting. But how do I feel about Hard Eight? I think Hard Eight is pretty damn great. And you know, this is Paul Thomas Anderson's first feature-length film. Only a year later, he came out with Boogie Nights, which basically shook the world. I mean, everybody talked about Boogie Nights. Everybody loved that film. But Hard Eight was a film that unfairly went under the radar because this is a really impressive film in a lot of ways, and definitely showcases the kind of talent and the potential that Paul Thomas Anderson had as a filmmaker, especially when it comes to the writing. Not that the direction in this film isn't impressive. It is, and I'll definitely get into that later. But this film is written beautifully. Especially when it comes to the main character played by Philip Baker Hall, as I said, named Sydney. I loved his character in this film because he's such a cool and calm and collected character while also having so much beneath the surface. And I loved that in terms of his values and his morals, it's not something that is just given to you right out of the gate. A lot about his character is left mysterious and ambiguous in terms of not only his backstory, but again, also just his morals and his character. And in the third act of the film, a lot of that gets unraveled and really makes his character that much more complex and that much more interesting, and really makes you question and think about who is the actual villain of this film and who is it that I should be really rooting for here. But Philip Baker Hall isn't the only star and standout in this film. This one is an all-star cast, to be honest with you. You have Philip Baker Hall, like I said, and then John C. Reilly, who I think is incredibly underrated. I think he has astronomical range that really nobody talks about or really gives enough praise to, in my opinion. But I just think it's also hilarious that this is like the third or fourth movie that Paul Thomas Anderson has casted a more of a comedic personality and a comedic actor in the lead role. Mark Wahlberg in Boogie Nights, and obviously Adam Sandler in Punch Drunk Love. But I think John C. Reilly is great in this film. Gwyneth Paltrow is also in this film. And she's an actress that I honestly just kind of find annoying most of the time. And, yeah, she's talented, but from what I've seen her in, she's really nothing to write home about. But what I will say is that she's actually really good in this film. I think she actually embodied this character incredibly well, to where I wasn't just thinking I was looking at Gwyneth Paltrow the whole movie. So yeah, even kudos to Gwyneth Paltrow, who actually did a great job to the point where it made me forget how annoying I find her. And you also have Samuel L. Jackson in this film, who plays Samuel L. Jackson, but that's what we want out of him, and he delivers it in the best possible way that you could imagine. And he's not in this film much, but when he is in it, he's obviously absolutely entertaining and just a joy to watch on screen. It's just kind of insane that he even got Samuel L. Jackson to be in this movie, considering this is PTA's first film, because Samuel L. Jackson just had a gigantic breakout role in Pulp Fiction. So I don't know what kind of strings he was able to pull to get him, but that's really cool. And also Philip Seymour Hoffman is in this film, but he just has like a 3 or 4 minute cameo. And he's just, God, it's just like, even though he's only in the film for like 3 minutes, he's just able to prove to everybody how truly talented he is as an actor, just in those 3 minutes. Because even though he's only in the film for 3 minutes, he shows such a wide range of emotions, and he's able to convey a lot of character details, and it's so impressive. And it's just when you see scenes like that, you truly miss the guy and wish he was still around. But I also really like the presentation to this film as well, because it just feels so smooth and so classy. And I think it's so fitting for the film to kind of have this more subtle and fluid style to it, because the main character himself is calm, is subtle, is classy. And it makes it to where the tracking shots in this film are great in their own right, because it's not anything flashy, but it just fits the tone and the character of this film incredibly well. And even though this film is really suave and collected, it takes a dark turn, and it takes a bit of a chaotic dark turn, which is something that I really didn't expect, because it seems to just come out of nowhere. But I love that. I love the way that this film was able to subvert my expectation in that way. And I love that it also serves as a pivotal moment, and not only the film's narrative, but for all the characters. And you really get to see more of the honest and truer side of all these characters, and it makes them a lot more multidimensional. And especially for the main character, because that's when things start going down certain roads and certain things start getting exposed for him, that forces him to decide who he's going to be. And just to see that unravel, I thought to be really suspenseful, because it keeps you on your toes. And I didn't find it disappointing in the slightest, just to see where all that went. One thing that I will say about this film is that you can certainly tell that Paul Thomas Anderson is still trying to develop his own sense of style, because, and this is also present in Magnolia as well, and even in Boogie Nights, where you feel like the Scorsese influence is perhaps a bit too apparent. And it's actually not that apparent in this film, because again, it's more dialed back. In terms of style, it's a lot more dialed back than something like Magnolia or Boogie Nights. But it's still there in some of its presentation. And to me, it's not really until Punch Drunk Love and The Master and There Will Be Blood where you're like, this is uniquely Paul Thomas Anderson. And perhaps it's the way that he's able to experiment and play with his own unorthodox scores for his films. But either way, those are definitely the films where you can tell, like, this is the Paul Thomas Anderson touch. And with this film, there's not that much about it to where you're like, oh, this is Paul Thomas Anderson. But either way, I still think as a standalone film, it's pretty damn awesome. And especially for a directorial debut, I think there are so many different impressive things about this film. So I'm going to give Hard 8 a hard 8. I promise that was not a forced grade that I feel like I had to do. Because those of y'all know I totally had an opportunity to give 8.5 and 8.5. But I didn't. I gave it a soft 9. But a hard 8 just felt perfect for this film. And to me, it is a film that really got better the more I thought about it. So this is a film that I feel like a lot of people who love Paul Thomas Anderson has slept on for a while. But I urge you to check it out. I highly doubt you'll be disappointed with this film. So far, the only Paul Thomas Anderson film that I didn't even think was good was Inherent Vice. But even then, that film isn't terrible. I just don't think it's that great. But I have a whole review on that if you want to check that out as well as Punch Drunk Love. I have a scene analysis on There Will Be Blood as well if you want to check that out. But either way, that's all I got to say about Hard 8. If you really enjoy what I had to say about Hard 8, please give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.